Hi guys, it's Melisa Keenan here, CEO and owner at Coaching with Melisa Keenan. I help women and couples create the intimacy of their dreams. And I also recently just hit USA Today bestseller list, so go check out my book. It's called The Younger Self Letters. Hi, today I want to talk about this idea of being big, being your biggest, fullest self, and how important that this is in both your marriage or your committed relationship that you're in, as well as in your business. As an intimacy coach, this is where I work, is the power of intimacy on both our relationships and our businesses. And so I'm excited to break this down for you guys today, because what I know about women is we all carry this inner voice that says either I'm not good enough or I'm too much, right? Dang it. It's like part of the human condition. Hi guys. Hi. Thank you for saying hi. Please say hi in the comments if you're watching. And let me know, do you relate to that? That there's this constant egoic message keeping us in survival that's either saying you're not enough or you're too much. And we're focusing today on the one that says you're too much. What are all the ways that women end up acting in ways that are not in alignment with who we really are because we believe we need to stay small and meek and quiet and submissive and not cause a big kerfluffle? Right? And, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, maybe that was like the case, in the 60s or in the 50s, let me just tell you, any Brene Brown fans out there? Brene Brown did tons of research on shame. And one of these messages of shame is you're too much, you're too big, you're too much. And what she found, actually, it's quite radical. This piece of work, I'm honestly surprised that she published it, because she said that our shame is actually characterized by gender. The way we experience the shame, she found massive patterns between men and women. The book is called Men, Women, and Worthiness, if you want to go check it out. So she found these patterns, and every time the voice for women was, be small, be meek, be quiet, be submissive, and have it all at the same time. So do it all and make sure nobody knows how much you're sweating. Don't be too much, right, you guys? That was the message. And that, her work came out, within the last 10 years. It's not like, the 60s. It's very new. It's very new work that found still women today, these are the messages that we're struggling with. So then how does that affect us when we have this constant message of I'm too big or I'm too much? How is that going to affect us? Well, it keeps us from really being our true self. Let's talk about marriage first. In my marriage, I actually really held this belief, and I thought when I got married, this is the person I can be most myself with, but it also turns out to be the one I felt has the highest stakes. Like, I really want my marriage to work, and so I ended up holding so many parts of myself back. For instance, I wouldn't sing. I would sing sort of like to myself, or when I was at home, I wouldn't sing in front of my husband, or just like really belt out like I did a lot of times as a kid, until like year 8 of marriage. Isn't that wild? Things like keeping my laugh more quiet, subduing my excitement, feeling like, I don't want to be playful or weird or too much in this situation. And all those things, they kind of sound benign, maybe not so terrible, but what it does in a marriage is it drives disconnection, right? It's walls. They're layers of walls between myself and everyone around me. No one really knows what's in here. And I have a big personality. Like, I'm the kind of person, I was standing in line a few years ago to get onto a cruise, and everybody's like, like waiting in this huge line. And I'm thinking, we are getting on a cruise. Why is everyone like this, right? And what kept flashing in my mind was hopping on this table that was standing next to me and like conducting like an elf session. You know, the movie Elf, where he's dancing on the table and everyone's dancing with him. Hey, hey, hey. That's what was going through my mind. But, you know, you can bet nothing even close to that is what happened. I just sat quiet and then even felt shame that I even had these nudges. Is anybody relating here? Okay, I'm being real vulnerable in this group. I would love to hear if you have the voice. Yeah, I'm worried about being too much. Okay, so this is how it affects our relationships. Let's talk about how then that affects our businesses. Okay, well, here's what I see. I come into my business and I'll write some things, but I cannot do a live. Oh my gosh, that is too vulnerable. Anybody relate, right? Or I know I'll just stick to the templates that they give. I won't actually write my own content because that's too vulnerable. That's too exposing. Then maybe you're okay with lives and you're okay with writing, but you're out here and you're like, I can't really show my true quirky self. I'm too afraid that, you know, it's going to be too much for people. They won't like me. They won't resonate with my message or whatever, right? Oh, super interesting, Jackie. That's such a fascinating take on it. That is really fascinating, and I would be interested because a couple of my gay clients have absolutely been more liberated. I wonder almost, that's so fascinating. I wonder almost if it's like I've already kind of like gone against the grain of culture and claimed parts of myself that other people said I couldn't, and so then there's this like liberation or something. Like, that's super interesting. I'd love to chat with you more about that. So you can see why then in your business it might stifle or hold you back from being the magnetic person that you are, right? So what is to be done? How can we release and let go of this messaging? And this messaging has been on us. We talked about the 60s at the beginning. It's been on us as women, I mean, way, way back, colonial times for sure. There was lots going on in American culture. But even going back further into that, into the scriptures, Bible, there's not a whole lot of women leaders and things like that, right? So, you know, be the support role, be the subdued one, be the submissive one. And here's where I come in with this. Because actually, I think a lot of people in this group think that I'm very sexist and think that I want women to be these things, which is so interesting to me and just gives me a big challenge to get to explain to people what it is I actually do. We get to break down the difference between cultural femininity and feminine energy, or our divine feminine. These are two separate things. Cultural femininity is the piece that you know, kept my mother from ever being able to share her experiences, that kept her mother from ever even being able to express her emotions, that kept her mother from even being able to have a job. Like, literally, right? We look back in our lineage and it's like, oh, this is in our DNA. And it's our privilege now, living at this time, that we don't have to continue to perpetuate those things, right? But it's up to us to parse those out. So one of the first things I ask my clients is, I want you to sit down and think about, what were the women in my life like as I was growing up? And what were the messages that I received about what it means to be a good woman? That's the phrase I want you to ask yourself. What were the messages I received that meant I was being a good woman, or my mother was being a good woman, or my sister, or whatever, right? Because good woman, there is a lot of charge around that phrase, am I right? Like, man, you know, I just have empathy on myself going back to being a young mother and a pretty fairly new bride, and just feeling like, I'm not sure if I even know how to survive this life. I'm 20 something years old, and I know that if I'm a good woman, I'll survive. And then chasing all these arbitrary, the thing about that, right, when we start to put morals around something so tightly like that, it's different for every culture. So it just leaves you guessing even more in our global age that we're in, right? Like, well, they say this is what it means, and they say this is what it means, and how am I have to be perfect at all of them. So we have to pull those things out because and I've yet to meet a woman, even as evolved as we all are, who can honestly look me in the eye and say, oh, I've already done this. Like, I don't have any that are affecting me. They sit down, they start doing this work, and they're like, oh, wow, I do always feel guilt every time I spend money on myself. I didn't even realize it's because my mother always, said we put our needs last, or, there's always something in there that's still saying to you, be small, be smaller than you are, be quiet, be still, be submissive, be subdued. It's fascinating. I've yet to meet somebody. And so we do that work first. We get to parse that apart. And then we look at what then is this feminine energy thing and how can it help me in both my marriage and my business. And it's so beautiful. It's these parts of you that are focused more on being rather than doing. Focus more on loving and receiving rather than giving and having to serve all the time. It's focused more on sensation and being in enjoyment of things. It's actually really going inward and getting to know you, getting to know what makes you a good, if we're going to still call it that, woman. It's just you, just as you are, being present to your sensations, being present and open to love and connection when it presents itself, being receptive, being able to trust, and being able to act on those impulses, those desires of your heart that say, Melisa, get on the table and start singing and see what happens. Melisa, belt out a song in front of your husband. Who cares? He's going to love it. He's going to laugh. It's going to be fine, right? Or that says, you know what? Go do that live, or go make that crazy program that you've been mulling over and thinking, no one's going to understand this program. Like, nobody thinks about things the way I do. This is the power of your feminine. Yes, it's a more subtle energy. It's not all like out loud and, achievement driven or progress driven. It's not like brute strength, but it is a power and it can move through you when you listen to it. So my friends, in conclusion, go be your big selves. What is that next piece inside of you that you can step more fully into and feel alive, feel that heart's desire being met? What is that next thing for you? I would love to hear. I did a little video on this yesterday in my group that I run. I run a Facebook group called Women Manifesting Intimacy. It's a little bit more of a private community where we can talk about things like intimacy and relationships in conjunction with our business as business owners. And so if you want to join that, go search that up, Women Manifesting Intimacy. And it was so much fun. Somebody on the thing said, I want to hear you sing. I didn't know you sing. And so I finished the video singing this song. It was very, very fun. But what is that next thing for you? How can you commit right now to yourself to saying yes to, is it your pleasure? Is it following your heart's desire? Is it more time for self-care? Is it more expression? Is it more creativity? Is it just doing things you love more often? What is that next thing for you? And I hope you will go and do it and come back and report to me. Just send me a DM. I'd love to hear how this goes. And if this is all like resonating and you're like, yeah, you know what? I am tired of stifling myself. I want to live in my fullness, in my relationships, in my business. I'm telling you, it is power, and it is where your power is. And so if that's all resonating with you and you want to connect with me personally, I'd love to hold a call with you and help discuss your personal experiences with this and what your next steps might look like. And I'll go ahead and post that link in the comments. Thanks guys so much for watching. Adore you all, and let's go be big and be in the world.